Hey everyone. I don't normally make videos like this, so this is completely out of the ordinary for me. I normally just stick to music and outdoor stuff and adventures and all that kind of stuff. But there's something that I don't think I can stay silent on anymore. I work with young people. I take them on adventures and stuff. I used to be a teacher. Now I'm a volunteer for an organization that works with youth. And I have seen an epidemic in the last couple of years that it infuriates me and it breaks my heart, and I find the solutions being offered unacceptable. Um, if you're watching this and you struggle with the issue that I'm talking about, or if you are watching this because of someone you love going through this, I want to make it very clear what my intention is. My intention is to give an alternative that leads to life, blessing, and the fulfillment of the needs that these ideologies are illegitimately trying to fulfill legitimate needs. I want to repeat that. It is a legitimate need that these ideologies are trying to fulfill in an illegitimate fashion. And so I want to say, if you're watching this and you struggle with this issue, I affirm the depth of the need that you feel, even if you're afraid to say it, even if you're afraid to confess out loud that you long for something more than the life that's been given you. I mean, nobody wants a boring life, right? Nobody wants to be told that their existence is invalid, because those are the two options. Those are the two options that I see with this topic of toxic masculinity. And I use that term because that's just what most people know it as. I'm not interested in making new terms. I'm interested in meeting people where they are. So that's the term I'm going to use to describe this ideology, character trait, whatever you want to call it. We all know it when we see it. This idea of, I have to be a big macho masculine. No, you don't. You don't have to do that. You can be yourself. Now, on the other hand, you have this other ideology that says, men are invalid and we want them all to go away. It's like, tell that to a little boy. Tell that to a teenager. What do you think that's going to do to society if you tell half the population that they suck and you want to get rid of them? That's what's creating this need. You have the two polar opposites that are tearing apart an entire generation of young people. And I've seen it firsthand. I've seen what the one side is saying, and it infuriates me that they're pumping those ideas into children. Young men who have no clue what real life is supposed to be. They've never lived through it. Half the guys who get onto this Sigma male grind set have never left their parents' house. They've never been in the woods. They've never been attacked by wild animals. They've never fallen off the side of a mountain. They've never put themselves in physical risk because no one's letting them do that. So they have this deep need for adventure that nobody in their culture is fulfilling except the ones who are just profiting by their insecurity. So on the one hand, you have that. You have wolves devouring sheep. And if you're a young man watching this, I have some hard truths for you. You don't have to put on a performance to be a man. You don't have to pretend to be more, whatever you think you have to be a man. You don't have to pretend. That's what they want you to do. They want you to put on a mask of, suffer in silence. Don't feel anything. Don't show kindness. Don't show weakness. Don't show anything that will show that you have a heart of flesh and not a heart of stone. If you're watching this and you think that that's what you have to be, I'm telling you, you don't. You don't. Just plain and simple. I could end the video there. You don't have to follow what these guys are saying to be a real man. Look at them. You think that true masculinity consists of making everyone else around you feel like garbage? Of making yourself feel like garbage? Of constantly having to hide behind the fear of being exposed because deep down you know you're a fraud? You think that's freedom? You think that's masculinity? That's child's play. That's not growing up. That's not walking in freedom. That's not walking in strength. That's walking in the constant fear of the exposure of weakness. It breaks my heart to see that that's the only option given. And the alternative is, oh, don't be a man at all. Don't be masculine at all. You have to pretend to be whatever it is you want to say. Like all these things where you're on both sides, you're not good enough. For the one side, you're not manly enough. For the other side, you're not feminine enough. Neither side is going to accept you for who you are. So why listen to them? They don't decide who you are. Not the ones who say that you're not manly enough. Not the ones who say that you don't fit into society enough. Be honest with yourself. And if you're a Christian, be honest with God. Because let's be honest, like this has to do with who you think you are. This has to do with what it means to be who God made you to be. And I'm not here to tell you what that is. I'm here to tell you that you can find out. You don't have to have them tell you or them tell you. If you don't know who you are going to suffer and make everyone else around you suffer from the false images that you put on yourself, from the false images that you've inherited from other people who have no clue who you are and probably don't even care. They just see, oh, you're a man, so we have to hate you. Or they see, oh, you're a young man, so we have to mold you in our image. You want to tell me that's freedom? It breaks my heart to see that. There's an alternative, though. And what I'm about to say is going to be hard to accept for anyone who's trapped in either of those dilemmas. I will say this before I get into it. I'm a Christian, so that's the perspective that I'm speaking from. I am not accusing, condemning, or condoning any particular philosophy or whatever. I'm saying from the perspective that I'm coming from, I'm a Christian, and I was in the armed forces for a while. I worked with people that were certified badasses. I was not, but I worked with them. Some of the most intense and intimidating people you will ever meet are also the kindest, are also the ones with the biggest servant hearts. And there's a rescue swimmer that I used to work at the air station he was with. We became friends, and he told me once, he said, big muscles are worthless without a big heart. I want to repeat that. Big muscles are worthless without a big heart. What he meant by that, if you have strength, that strength isn't for you. It's for the people around you. If you have intellect, that intellect isn't for you. It's not a weapon. It's not a way of achieving wealth and success for yourself. It's a way of empowering the people around you to make a positive impact. You want to be a man? You want respect? Then you throw respect at other people. You build respect in other people. And they'll give you back what you were looking for without even trying. You try to take that respect from people. Good luck having friends in the real world. Good luck having relationships in the real world that don't break down at the first sign of chaos and conflict. Those guys in the military that I was talking about, there's a lot of special forces guys and veterans and stuff like that well, there's a couple of them that are famous, and you see the way that they say if you want practical short-term results, they're the guys to go to. But if you want lifelong, lasting fulfillment, you should talk to some of these other guys that have gone through that path. You know, the path of be an uber macho, masculine machine. On the other side of that, there's only two options. There is the slow and agonizing death of falling into a trap of self-centered, I don't even know what to call it, insanity that will destroy you and the people around you. Or there's the freedom of other-centered kindness, fulfillment, and empowerment, taking the gifts that have been given to you or the gifts that you've cultivated in yourself and giving them to other people. Now, if this sounds eerily similar to something that Jesus said, it's because it's exactly what Jesus said. It's better to give than to receive. He says that a good man takes the treasures from his heart and gives them to other people. So if you're a Christian and watching this, that's the direct words of Jesus. You want to know how to be a real man? Look at Jesus. Act like him. Self-giving, other-centered, sacrificial, kind, and gentle love takes more strength, more patience, more endurance, more discipline, more self-control, and more grit and sweat and blood than self-centered performance will ever require of you. Self-centered performance only means, oh, I choose to wake up at 5 a.m. every day and do my little fitness routine just for the sake of appearance. How long does that last? You have to spend the rest of your life maintaining a facade most people can't maintain for a couple months at a time. How exhausting that is. How fruitless. Completely fruitless, just striving for appearances. And the same goes with wealth. The same goes with education. The same goes with all of these things. The things themselves are not bad. The things themselves are gifts. They're strengths. They're power. But if your only pursuit is power for the purpose of appearance, for the purpose of, I don't know, satisfying your base desires, a monkey can do that. Any monkey can do that. You're not a monkey, you're a human being. You really think that's going to fulfill you after time? If that fulfills you, hey, great. But I think you're lying. Nobody I've ever spoken to has an easy time quenching those built-in desires for adventure, relationship, fulfillment. That crap ain't going to give you that after a while. It might satisfy in the short term, but you're not going to get what you think you're getting from it. It's a false promise. The naivety that it takes to believe in that false promise, that's exactly what these guys are capitalizing on. These podcasters, these influencers who tell you, oh, I'm going to tell you how to be a real man. If you just give me a little bit of money and a little bit of time, I'll tell you how to be successful like me. You want to know how to be successful like them? You lie, cheat, steal, kill for the purpose of self-advancement. That's how you be like them. Now, you and I know deep down that's not what you really want. One day you're going to have to ask yourselves the hard questions of, what do I want? Who do you think you are? Where do you want to be? You have a legitimate need. Don't fill it in an illegitimate fashion. Don't disqualify yourself from the real promises and fulfillment that are in you. Don't ignore those needs by pretending that you can fill them with something petty like wealth or fame or even the self-satisfied smugness of a Sigma male. That's not fulfillment. That's a mask. I tell you this from who knows how many people that I've spoken to. Pay attention to those quiet badasses in your life. Not the ones who go around shouting their own glory and their own fame. Those guys are full of crap. Those guys are afraid. You want to see an insecure man? Look at a man who points at himself. You want to see true strength. You want to see true masculinity. You find the quiet guys that don't show off their strength, that don't promote themselves. You find the ones that stay a little bit after work and fix the toilet. I don't know, something like that. We all know those guys. They're if you were really honest with yourself, you'd look at those guys and be like, that's the kind of guy I want to hang out with. The guy who's willing to put in a little bit more sweat so that other people don't have to. We all know these guys. Usually they might not be what you expect of a badass, but I can tell you whether they're a carpenter, whether they're an accountant, whether they're an officer, whether they're a manager, whether they're even if they're just that old guy down the street with a welding shop, you know the kind of guy I'm talking about. The kind of guy that they have your back no matter what it does to them. They meet you with cheerfulness and sincerity, and when you see people like that, you just get this sense of oh my God, that's what God must be like. That's what Jesus must be like. This freedom to help others, regardless of the cost to them. It's like they don't even worry about it. It's almost like they have this security that everything's going to be okay in the end if they just be who they are and help people where they are. It's almost like they just know that everything's going to be fine and they don't have to put up this facade. You can breathe around those guys, you know? Like some groups of friends, some groups of coworkers and stuff, it's exhausting. You have to put up these masks and stuff like that. Nobody wants to live like that. You want to live like that? You think that's fulfillment? It's exhausting. It sucks, man. That's the price of pride. It destroys you. It promises all these beautiful things and it takes them away one by one until there's nothing left but a quivering hulk of nothingness at the bottom of your heart. And then you're just faced with that gaping hole, that need that still goes unfulfilled even after all that damage results from an illegitimate way of filling a legitimate need. So that's the alternative that I say. That's the alternative that I see in the person of Jesus, in the writings of Paul. I don't care what people who talk about biblical manhood have to say. I don't care about what they're going to say. Oh, but Paul doesn't advocate humility. Paul advocates humility directly. Jesus lives it directly. Humility is freedom. You want to be a real man? Stop worrying. Go out and do good things for other people. Give up. Give up the need to look good. Give up the need to have more. Give up the need to triple your revenue or whatever, or be a high-value man. You're already a high-value person, and it has nothing to do with you being a man or a woman. You're already high value. Now live from the security of that value you can give to others without fear. I'm telling you this. I won't get into this story, but my life became a fairy tale when I gave it up. Give up the need for dignity, face embarrassment head on, face truth head on, no matter how uncomfortable, and be like, oh, that's either going to end my life or end my career if I go into that. And then you go into it and you find, no, instead of ending either of those, it gives you abundantly 10,000 times more than you could expect. I saw that when I gave up my military career to go halfway around the world and volunteer in an organization that with a completely different language. I didn't even know if they would accept me. And then I see what I gave up doesn't even compare to what I got back in return in fulfillment of seeing actual lives saved. I had nothing to do with that. We saved a bunch of lives a couple of times and never expected that. But the family you get, the fulfillment, and when you give up your life, as Jesus says straight up, you might not believe this, but for me, it's straight up practical. If you give up your life, you will find it. If you hold on to it, it will be taken from you. So give up. Let it go. Let go of all of that need. And if you're going through that toxic masculinity phase, if you're going through that, I don't know, that need to prove yourself as a worthy hero before everybody, or even if it's just out of the selfish ambition of amassing as much wealth as you possibly can before you die and you can't take it with you anyway, like a little child hoarding toys away from other people, grow up and realize the freedom and utter adventure of giving it all up, giving it to others, watching them be blessed by it, giving to those who need, sticking around for those who can't stick around for themselves, standing up for the defenseless, going into situations where you're not the one in control. Give up control. And I guarantee you'll have an infinitely better life than if you try to hold on to it like a guy in a straitjacket. That's not freedom, that's prison. Pride is no freedom. It's a prison, and it will eat your soul away from the inside out until nothing is left, and everything you care about will be stripped away from you. And if it's not stripped away from you, your ability to enjoy it will be stripped away from you because you have this ache, this longing in your heart, this need that's a legitimate need that you might have been feeling in an illegitimate fashion, and that's what's tearing you apart. You might not see the effects of it now. If you're a young person, you probably won't see the effects of it now. You probably think I'm full of shit. But I tell you this, if you don't give it up, it will destroy you. That's not a threat. That's not even a warning. It's just an observation of. I'll say one example. I've been involved in a couple of veterans groups, and I didn't do anything badass when I was in the military. I did a little bit of stuff, but I tell you, seeing these other guys that are certified badasses, Green Berets, Navy SEALs, like SWIC boat guys, all that kind of stuff, like the tactical, the guys that are legitimately like they walk in a room and everyone's afraid. When you really sit with them one-on-one, full confessional, like all that, like just complete confidence in each other, they will tell you that all the external discipline in the world cannot save you from the needs in your heart, that you cannot fulfill them by being a badass if you don't deal with those things, those emotions, those wounds. Whatever it is, that ache that you're trying to fill through an illegitimate fashion. You could have a Marine recon, been in Fallujah, for instance, like completely decorated and all that, and his marriage falls apart, trying to take his own life. You could have a Navy SEAL, complete badass, getting into bar fights and stuff like that and winning and not getting in trouble, like all that kind of stuff, coming home to a broken family and having an oh shit moment and realizing he is the reason his family's falling apart. You think a real man, from some of these podcasters' attitudes, you think a real man is going to come in there and be like, hey, sorry, honey, I'm wrong? No, they're going to say, oh, well, here's the reasons why you don't value me as a high value man. It's like only insecure men care about how others value them. Real men go in and say, oh shit, I messed up. I'm sorry. True strength is humility. True strength is confession, telling the truth, admitting when you're wrong, admitting when you're afraid. True courage is admitting your fear and saying, you know what, I'm afraid of this. But if this is the right thing to do, I'm going to do it anyway because it's worth it. Don't shrink away from fear. Don't be a coward. You want to be a real man? Face the things that are inside you that are driving you to look for that validation outward. Face those things head on and accept them. Number one, accept that's where you are. That's confession. Confession doesn't mean apologizing. Confession means telling the truth. And if you're watching this, you're probably a Christian. I've already told you I'm a Christian. You can look at my other videos about where I stand on that. So I'm just going to straight up say this now. This is the alternative. The alternative is full confession and say, you can talk to God and you can say, Lord, this is where I'm at. This is how I feel. This is the longing that's in my heart. This is the ache that's in my heart. These are the stupid things I've done to try to fulfill that ache. And you can ask the Lord, you can say, Lord, number one, who do you say I am? And number two, you can say, Lord, what do you want me to do about it? You can give it all to him. You can give up. Give up your need. And he can fulfill it. My life is a fairy tale because of that. It's not because of anything that I, when I was like, oh, I have this 5-step plan about how look, plans are great. They can get you success in the short term, and I'm not knocking them. But if you don't give up your deepest fears, no podcaster is able to help you. If you don't tell the truth to yourself and to God, nothing that these guys say is ever going to help you get over it. If you don't acknowledge the deep hurt or the deep need or the deep longing and desire in your heart that is legitimate, none of these external performance factors are going to change any of that. Nothing you do on the outside is going to change that deep-seated need within your heart that if you've been following down that path that you might be too afraid to look at. I don't care about your fear. Look at it. Confess it and say, okay, fine. That's where I'm at. That's how I feel. Great. That's when you can start doing stuff. When you finally tell the truth to yourself, to God, and to others, that's when you can start doing something with it. That's when you get miracles. Even if you don't believe in miracles, I don't care. You'll find way more freedom by telling the truth and acknowledging, number one, the longings that you have, the deep-seated needs and desires that are legitimate. And number three, the illegitimate ways that either you've been trying to reach them or that other people have been telling you that you have to meet them with, or that further still, other people are telling you don't exist at all and you're wrong for feeling. I tell you, give them all up to God. He's not a monster. He's not a jerk. He's not some accountant up there with a big running tally of all the... No. He's your father. He's your friend. And you can go to the person of Christ. You can say, Lord, I don't know what to do. Tell me. And if you have an open mind and an open heart and you tell the truth and you wait, he can speak to you in ways you never imagined. To get back to my Green Beret Navy SEAL friends and all them, well, too much to say now, but God can work in the worst places in your life and bring about the most blessing. And it will take getting over your fear of looking like an idiot. It will take acting even in the face of embarrassment. Even if you think that your career, your life, your dignity, your standing, even if it looks like that's all on the line, my brother in Christ, it's already on the line. If you're at this point and you've stuck around with me this far, if you're walking down this path of what these ideologies want you to go, your life is already on the line, even if you don't see it. Just look at the broken lives of the men who have gone before you. Your life is already on the line. You got nothing to lose by telling the truth. You got nothing to lose by confessing. You got nothing to lose by throwing everything at the feet of Christ, by throwing everything in the light of day. Ephesians 5:11. Do not participate in the evil deeds of darkness, but rather expose them, because everything that is exposed to the light becomes visible, and everything that is visible becomes light. Not even that thing that you fear the most in your heart, not even that is so far that it can't be transformed into a glorious and beautiful blessing by the Lord of life. So, if you think that this is all some religious mumbo-jumbo, I tell you, this is deadly serious practical joy that we're talking about. This is transformation that none of your Sigma male friends and schedules can bring about. This, we're talking transformation from the inside out that is already yours. You don't have to strive to be a high value male in the eyes of others, because in the eyes of the God who made you, you're already of infinite value. Now walk in it. Give from a place of abundance. You can't run out. If God tells you to give something to someone else, He'll give you more than you need to give to them. There's no pressure now to perform. There's no pressure to achieve above what others do, because if the Lord calls you to it, He'll put you way higher than you could have ever imagined by going lower than you ever imagined. And He'll bring you blessing from what you can only see right now as absurdity, but give it up. Give up your need for pride. Give up your need for control. Give up your need for dignity. Give up your need for affirmation and throw them at the feet of Christ and say, Lord, you know my need. You can take care of it. And then sit there and wait. And go through it all. Go through the embarrassment. Go through the feeling like an idiot. But don't give it up. Not yet. Just keep going. And I swear to you, you will see blessing like you have never seen before. You will find out what it means to be a true man. And what it means to be a true man is not what these podcasters say. It is not what the culture that hates you says. To be a true man means to go into the mess of who you really are and seeing the value and worth that the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit have put there from the beginning and given to you for the sake of blessing others. So much more freedom in that. And whatever you need, it'll be provided. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about what you wear, what you drive, where you live. Imagine living from a place of such abundance and resources and time that you just stop worrying. Imagine the freedom of that. Well, you don't have to imagine anymore. You can live in that. So, if you've been listening this far, then I really hope that this has been an encouragement and a blessing. If you want to know more, you can write down in the comments. I have just... What I say might sound like a fairy tale because it is. But here's the thing. Fairy tales can be true and you can't do a damn thing about it. So, if you've made it this far, I hope that it's been a blessing and an encouragement. I hope that this can give you a little bit of courage to go into the dark places in your own heart, to go into the secret places that nobody knows, and confess to the Lord the needs that you feel, the things that you long for, the fears that you have, and you can give them all up, and you can tell the truth and watch God do miracles. Even if it takes you on a fairy tale you can't believe, I guarantee you, you will see so much more blessing by giving up control than you will ever see by being a perfectionist, Sigma male, whatever you want to call it. All of that stuff, give it up and walk in true freedom. Give it up and walk in the footsteps of the true man who's gone before you and behind you and above you and below you. Because if Jesus is who he really says he is, you don't have to worry about all that other stuff. You can lean on him. So, I know that's not the kind of video I normally make, but I hope it's been a blessing and an encouragement. So, remember, there are things waiting for you that you have no clue about. Blessings you could never imagine. Just have to have the courage to tell the truth to yourself and to God. So, anyway, I hope that's an encouragement.